For many Americans, maybe for you, the gentleman to my side right here, Tim Walz, has had a startling and unexpected ascent to the top of the Democratic Party. You probably didn't know much, if anything, about him not too long ago. I had known a few of the things that he had done, but I was hardly an expert. And it turns out that it wasn't just lightning in a bottle. It wasn't just he coined the weird thing and suddenly he's everywhere. There was a strategy, and apparently, according to people who were involved in it, it began coming out of the 2022 midterms. So he had just led his party to sweeping victories, and he apparently wondered about the possibility that his particular political brand might be needed on the national level at some point, perhaps even on a presidential ticket. They don't say specifically that he expected that Biden might step down or not run again, but that seems to be kind of one of the considerations. And so he and his aides figured out a strategy that was going to try to get him ready to capitalize on any of those opportunities if they arose, or another way to frame it is just to be there if he is called to service, I suppose. So they decided they would build his profile, one state party dinner and cable news appearance at a time, and so that they don't alert too many other potentially ambitious Democrats that he's coming so they can fight back, he was just gonna do it in a way they describe as Minnesota nice. And so they tried to have him reach out to a bunch of people. They tried where they could to have him go viral. And in the meantime, the nice part is he was just going to do a ton of favors and not ask for anything, not do the normal politicking thing where you give something, you get something. He spent about 2 years just giving. And so as examples of that, when he was asked to defend Biden in the news media, he said yes. When he was asked to lead the DNC's Rules Committee, he said yes. And when he was asked to speak at party dinners or raise money for Democratic campaigns, he said yes. And he would give his cell phone number to nearly anyone who wanted to follow up, sort of building his network and growing a reputation as a guy who's just trying to be helpful.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
And as one maybe extreme example of this, back in January of this year, the weekend before the Iowa caucuses in which Biden did not compete, he agreed to drive for hours through sub-zero temperatures and a foot of snow to make the president's case early Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press. And so apparently he just wanted to sort of give across the brand that he's a guy who is trying to help out the party, help out those at the top, and might have in doing that really built a brand that contrasted when it mattered most with a politician maybe like Josh Shapiro, who some interpreted as being more ambitious or arguably more selfish. This is what some of the people affiliated with these campaigns might say. And so not only did he go viral when it mattered, and not only did he have a long list of progressive accomplishments that he could sort of use to tout his executive experience and all that, he also had this particular brand. And it kind of plays into what the sources were saying about the final choice between the last few candidates, that she had good chemistry with him. It seemed like someone that she could work with, and she seemed to be a little bit worried about her, her partner on the ticket being overly ambitious. What do you make of that?
Okay, I think he did two things massively right. Two things are kind of depends. Then I want to tell you about how fake politicians are and where Tim Walz falls in that spectrum. So the two things he did spectacularly right and that are essential are strategy. Look, I can't overstate this. If a politician on our side is not strategic, they will not be able to get anything done. So if I see a politician that isn't strategic, I have no interest in them. I've already dealt with a lot of politicians like that. They just cannot legislate their way out of a wet paper bag. They can't strategize in the media, they can't strategize in Congress. And if you can't do that, you can't win. So I got no, and by winning in this case, I don't mean winning elections. A lot of people can win elections without strategizing. Me will do what you want, donor friend, okay? Me do it, that's how you win an election, that's easy. Actually getting a bill passed is hard. So secondly, he's super hardworking. Oh, I love that, get in there, do the hard work, do as many media interviews as you can. I mean, he does all the things that you have heard me say for the last 10, 20 years that a politician should do if they were going to be on the right path. So I love it. The depends are kind of funny. So he says yes to everything. Well, that one depends on who you are, right? He's a governor, so people are like, "Whoa, a governor's doing me a favor. That's amazing." Okay, and they think that's great, and they owe him a favor. It's perfectly played. I do the same thing. People are like, "Yeah, right. Like I'll return the favor." No way. So I say yes all the time. And some people are nice and they say, "Oh, Cenk helped me when I first started out and stuff," and that's very nice of them to say. But 9 out of 10 times, if you don't have the status, they'll mistake your kindness for weakness. But in his case, saying yes makes perfect sense. And I like the strategy anyway, he's just doing it better. But guys, remember that this isn't magic. He did all those right things, but he had already passed the bills that we love. If he hadn't already passed those bills, then it's like a lot of other politicians, a lot of loose talk. "Oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that." Maybe, maybe not. But the reason we have shirts like "Balls to the Walls," and the reason we love the guy and we were so excited and hopeful when Kamala Harris picked him is because he already did it. And that is, thank you, shoptyt.com, okay? But because if he hadn't already done it, then I'm not at all excited, okay? So, and then finally on the spectrum of politicians' BS. A normal politician is not what you see on TV. They're I would say about 98% different when they're off camera, okay? They're about 2% authentic. Everything else is they go in with their consultants and their coaches. What's the positioning? How do we want to frame it? How do I want to sound? How do I want to look? Which demographic am I appealing to, etc. None of it is real. People on mainstream media pretend it's real and they set up this mirage, this theater. A politician that is like 40% authentic is the maximum, okay? And I think he's about 40% authentic, which by the way, that means I'm saying 60% of it is him, figuring out positioning. How do I get ahead? What favors do I do? How do I frame myself? By the way, I would want him doing that. I don't want him going, "Oh, what? Huh? I didn't do any homework. Oh, I'm just gonna say whatever's off the top of my head." I already know a guy like that. He's on the other side and it didn't turn out well, right? But I would push for as much authenticity as humanly possible. But I think within the spectrum of politicians in America, he's maxing out on authenticity, and we can't ask for better than that. So, Ramesh, what do you think?
I mean, you're absolutely right. We should always sort of not take what these people say or these moments that are curated for us completely for granted. Even with Tim Walz, who's so damn likable already for me. Look, I mean, we also have to see what happens when the decision was made. Immediately, we had Joe Manchin supporting him and Ilhan Omar. That's something, right? Those are very, very different types of figures that came out immediately in quite positive and ebullient ways supporting Walz. And they have done a good job setting him up as, whether you want to call him Coach Walz or America's Dad, these little memes are running around. And he, it's funny, I'm here in Northern California, literally in the house and room I grew up in as a little kid. And I was watching like the whole thing with my parents, and my parents were like, I won't do the Indian accent, but they were like, "He looks like a president." I was like, this is very interesting. So I think what we are seeing with him is a positive populist. I'm not the one who invents that term. I've seen that making the rounds, as opposed to negative populism in Trump and Vance. When's the last time you saw either of them laugh or even really smile? I mean, just like, does Trump ever say anything positive about the US? I mean, I think these are just questions worth asking, right? So for me, it's exciting, and there are some curated moments that did take my breath away. I mean, I'm a little bit of a, I want things to go well, right? So like when he signed that bill with the free breakfast and lunches at the schools, I don't know if you all played that clip, but oh my gosh, I mean, that was so sweet to see all those kids with him. So he does come across, and I know we're going to talk about it, he's actually middle class as well. Yeah. He does come across as more authentic than almost anybody I've seen appear at this stage in my lifetime in American politics. Of course, Bernie was extremely authentic, but also authentic in his sort of, in his integrity, but also in his like not wanting to deal with BS, in a way. This guy is very inclusive and positive so far.
Yeah, John's got some facts about how middle class Walz is, which is I honestly was shocked about. But you know what? The reason I jumped in is because I wanted to say something about what Ramesh just said. There's a chance that Bernie's too authentic, that he went too far on that spectrum and didn't strategize about how to frame his campaign. And so you want both. You want authenticity, but you also want strategy. And by the way, how do I know who the real Tim Walz is? I don't care. Why don't I care? Because all I care about is what bills you pass, because that affects actual Americans. The rest is just your ego, right? Sure. So he already passed the bills, so he already proved to me who he was. He's the guy who passes great bills, and that's the thing I care about most.
Yeah, I think super fast. I think that Bernie was able to package and sell the especially economic ideas that he did in the 2016 campaign better than we'd really seen by anyone. I think that his strategy in terms of that campaign was pretty good, but in terms of like the authenticity of how he can be gruff and a little brusque and everything, like he doesn't get that sort of warmth stuff that Walz gets. Like Bernie generates memes, but it's a different sort of thing. It's a different relationship to a candidate. But when it comes to the authenticity, I want to mention 3 things, and the last will be, I want both of your quick responses to the economic stuff, but the stuff that they did before they were politicians or like before they had power matters to me too. So like, that he like sponsored the gay straight alliance at his school back in the 90s or whatever. Like, Hillary Clinton endorsed gay marriage in like 2014 or something. Like, so that was early, and then the fact that he left the military and then sort of his first campaign is centered around ending the war in Iraq very early. And he still is on the right side of not necessarily every one of those issues, but pretty good. And so that to me has some authenticity to it. And then there's this too, which is interesting. I don't know the last time we saw something like this. So his net worth is apparently less than the average Americans. And bear in mind, he's been an elected politician for a number of years at this point. He was in the House of Representatives for 12 years. He's been a governor for multiple years. That's a lot of time to cash in if that's the thing that you got in there to do. And he clearly hasn't. By the way, when he was in the House of Representatives, he's a huge proponent of the Stock Act. That's basically the only thing we have that stops Congress people from like totally rigging the system for their own investments and everything. We need far more, but that's what we have. And he doesn't own any stocks, bonds, or other securities. He doesn't own any real estate either. He doesn't invest in any real estate, I should say. He just basically had his salary, which as governor was $128,000. He had a pension account worth as much as $100,000. So when you put together sort of his net worth, it is in fact less than the average American. And how many politicians don't just seem to stumble into being worth $1 or $2 million at this point? And obviously the guy on the other side, on the other ticket, JD Vance, is worth far more. Him and his wife have a net worth of between $4 and $10.5 million. That we know of. But anyway, so there's big differences there. Kamala Harris is worth a couple of $1 million, but he really does stand out. He seems even Bernie, and Bernie's an older guy and everything, but he doesn't even have the money that Bernie has.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised at both of those things. I can't believe Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff only have a couple of $1 million. That's a lot of money for you and I, but it's not a lot for people in their fields of work, let's put it that way. And the biggest asset that Harris and Emhoff have is actually their home in LA. So I was surprised by that. But Tim Walz, Jesus Christ, brother, get a financial manager. You're
gonna have to retire someday.
Right, that's so populist that it's almost negligent. Save some money, get a 401k. What are you doing, brother? This is crazy. Write a book, do something, okay? So, man, that is again, borderline too authentic. Okay, last things I'll say are, look, politics is about carrots and sticks. And so we're talking about Bernie and Walz and how their differences. I couldn't believe that between 2016 and 2020, Bernie Sanders didn't take Jim Clyburn out to lunch a couple of times. I would have tried to take Clyburn out to lunch 20 times, and I can't stand him. And the reason is you do carrots and sticks. You see if carrots will work. Hey, let's be nice, let's be colleagues, let's be congenial. Oh, that didn't work, then I got a stick right here for you, okay? And politically, rhetorically, right? But don't go to the stick first, go to the carrot first. That's the logical way to go. And Tim Walz He's got, look, he seems to be doing the strategy just right. He's got both carrots and sticks, again, because he passed it. But also, I mean, you got, to Ramesh's point, Manchin and AOC both were ecstatic on the day that he was named. That's some strategy, brother. That's some strategy. I'll take it.
Oh yeah, I mean, the vast majority of money being made by people in this country is being made through investments. That's why our economy overall is deeply unhealthy. And dummies like Trump, I don't know if I should call him a dummy, but just sort of
you should.
Insane elitists like Trump constantly praise how good the stock market was under his watch. We know that stock market valuation tends to at times be negatively correlated, believe it or not, with GDP, which is a macroeconomic hyper-capitalist calculation. So forget labor markets, forget Gini coefficient or earnings inequity or equity thereof. Forget wage, paycheck to paycheck wage issues. So, I mean, Tim Walz has made choices to actually not accumulate a great amount of wealth in the way that most of us try to accumulate wealth because of this sick economy that we all live within. And we're all compromised. I speak for myself here. I have money in 401k type things. And it's sort of like, that's the way to make money in this country because it's really, really troubling otherwise. He voted against the Wall Street bailouts. I know you all have covered that. That's very telling. You can't really pigeonhole him as an elite because he's just not an elite, right? Like it's true and true. Like he's, like the football coach teacher making less than the average American. But I guess the last thing I'll just say is again and again, as much as I'm like sort of really charmed by him, just like it seems like almost everybody else is, it's not what they say. It may not even be how much money they make. It's what they do. And that's why we just got to keep on as progressives and make sure that they support the things that actually, the policies that actually have energy amongst the American populace.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna close with just one fact because I know we might have left a lot of people really worried about whether he'll be able to retire someday. And I don't want them to be worried. So first of all, there will definitely be a book. There will be a book within like 6 months or something. But then also, in terms of time that he has to invest, first of all, invest as early as you can. I was amazed by this because you see a photo of him and you're like, he's an older gentleman. Well, you probably know he's the exact same age as Kamala Harris, even though they look like they're 15 years apart. But this is the most amazing fact about him. So like, let's say that he gets elected. Harris wins, he goes into the vice presidency. And then, it's going well, so they run for re-election. He gets re-elected as vice president. And then it turns out, you know what, people really liked him. It was a great 8 years. We're gonna go with him as the next president. He gets elected. And then it's still going well and he gets elected again. At the end of all that, he'd be younger than Donald Trump is right now. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing.
That's crazy. It really is a generational divide, and you're sort of seeing that in how these rallies are working. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, look, Biden was not even in the greatest generation. He was in the silent generation, and Trump is only 3 years younger than Biden. So he's almost older than the greatest generation.
Yeah.
So it's incredible how old these guys were. And Trump, as we all know, was too old and too crazy.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.